Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
A Time for True show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for Truth show. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, and it's a pleasure to be with you tonight. We have a very special show because we'll be dealing with wellness and something that's so vital to our planet, especially when we look around, see what's happening globally. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights from the UN, adopted in 1948. But as a surgeon of 44 years, I know that to eradicate a disease, a malady, first we have to face the infectious agents and recognize the symptoms, because otherwise it progresses to a point of no return and the patient dies. Despite an international treaty to end torture and very strong advocacy efforts, about 75% of countries still engage in torture. Another rising trend of violations of freedom of expression and political rights have also been observed, with the individual complaints to the United Nations Human Rights Committee reaching an all-time high in 2024. The Pew Research Center reports that around 3/4 of the world population living under a regime that severely restricts their religious freedom, and that the violations of religious freedom have definitely increased over the past decade. UNICEF reported an estimated 1 in 2 children, which is up to 1 billion globally, experience some form of violence each year, and 2 or 3 face violent punishment at home. And to this end, we bring you a very special guest. We're honored to have with us Dr. Mary Shuttleworth, EDD, born and raised in apartheid South Africa, exposing her firsthand to the devastating effects of discrimination and lack of basic human rights. As a teenager traveling and studying throughout Europe, she witnessed further discrimination and realized that issues of human rights violations reached far beyond the borders of her own South Africa. Dr. Shuttleworth earned her doctorate in educational leadership and change from Fielding Graduate University, and in 2001 went on to found her nonprofit corporation, Youth for Human Rights International. This special foundation teaches youth about human rights, and specifically the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Since 2003, Dr. Shuttleworth has advocated tirelessly to raise awareness about inhuman trafficking of persons and the important role of human rights in curtailing global epidemic and scourge. And she participates in international conferences and workshops in countries all over the world, including Australia, Colombia, India, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Nepal, Nigeria, South Africa, Switzerland, the USA. We could go on and on and on, but we don't have enough time. Dr. Shuttleworth has literally circled the globe since 2004, visiting more than 90 countries, holding meetings with kings, presidents, prime ministers, and United Nations officials. The mayor of Los Angeles proclaimed Youth for Human Rights Day for the city of Los Angeles, and other mayors and governors are following suit and have followed suit. The International Human Rights Summit is occurring this week at the United Nations here in New York City, and has since 2004. And we're very lucky to have her with us today with so much happening in our world. She was acknowledged as a Nobel Prize laureate, and unbelievable acknowledgement of what she's done across the planet with human rights. She's worked with personalities such as Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the former president of Timor-Leste, Jose Ramos Horta, and the former president of Costa Rica, Don Oscar Arias. And as I said during the World Peace Summit for Nobel Prize laureates, Dr. Shuttleworth was honored with a Summit Medal of Recognition for social activism. We could spend probably the whole show just going through all of what she's done and her inspiration throughout the globe. But much more importantly, Buddha, let's bring her live on the screen and introduce Dr. Mary Shuttleworth to a Time for Truth audience. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fialkoff. What an honor and privilege to speak with you and be on the show with you. And thank you for everything you're doing for people, for human rights, and for health.
Well, it's an honor for us to have you. And I know the UN is going to have a great week with you there, with all your volunteers coming from all over the globe. And I wanted to dedicate and start the show about you. And when I was very curious, and I'm sure our viewers are curious, when you were a young woman, what were your dreams and what was your upbringing like, and how did it shape the future that was to come?
Well, wow, that's a big story to unpack. So where do I start? So I was born and raised in a country where discrimination was the law and enforced by law. Apartheid, South Africa. The word apartheid means separate. That means separate development. And it was literally as a young girl growing up that I saw the devastating effects of what it means to discriminate for no good reason, just to discriminate because of race, color, creed, whatever. But literally, that's not really the start of my journey. The start of my journey, really, the passion started when I was 15 years old, and my father made it possible for me to travel to Denmark, to Europe, to do some studies there. And when I got to Denmark, I realized, oh my goodness, I saw very similar discrimination. I saw discrimination that had nothing to do with race and color. And I realized, it was literally an aha moment that changed my life, that I realized that discrimination is not just a big issue, it's a global issue. And when I speak to youth about it, when I speak to students, I'm a teacher, so, and when I speak to them, I call them the twos, T-O-O. We are too tall, too short, too rich, too poor, too white, too black, too this, too that, too this, too that. Literally, two. And there are so many two words that it's infinite. So we can just continue discriminating about something or other forever. And we can do that everywhere. And so literally my journey started on actually saying, you know what? I don't agree with that. And I think something should be done about it. And as I studied to become a teacher, an educator, education is my passion, I realized that we can do something about it. And to me, as a teacher, everything starts with Education, education, education.
Absolutely. You know, it's a shame that so much of the world doesn't have the opportunity that exists in America and other countries like yours in South Africa. And, you know, but before we get to that, I wanted to ask you, because the viewers will be very interested, and you really have traveled the globe. You've dealt with so many dignitaries and leaders. What do you see happening in our world regarding prejudice, abuses, you know, sexual abuse, young children being violently abused? Really, I would like your feelings and your thoughts on that.
Yeah. When we're talking about abuse, we literally, unfortunately, to me, literally, if we are still talking in the year 2025, and we are still talking about slavery, not slavery as a history lesson, which we can find in the history books plenty of, but slavery today, modern day slavery, human trafficking, I'm afraid I have no sympathy with it. To me, it's time to end slavery. So if we're talking about abuses, yes, there are many. They are horrible. They are terrible. But I'm sorry. When it comes to slavery, I've had enough. That's the line in the sand for me. According to UNICEF, 1.3 million children, and I'm not talking about people, I'm talking about children, are trafficked across international borders a year. And that's just what they report. Because if they're reporting that, they're pretty sure about it, which means it's much bigger than that. So to me, that right now, 2025 is unforgivable. It's time to stop slavery. It's time to stop that abuse. And, well, we need to do that. It's action.
Absolutely. And, you know, I want to ask you, what is it that inspired you? And I have this program here in front of me. It's very, very interesting. And we have it in different languages. How many languages is it, by the way?
27.
Wow.
It's
Okay, here, I want to,
languages.
it's got a beautiful cover, gorgeous cover. And it's a tall task, unbelievable magnitude to take on what you've taken on. So I want to ask you, what was it that inspired you? What was it that happened that clicked inside of you that said, you know, I'm going to do something about this?
Well, what clicked was that I realized in speaking to people, we all want human rights.
That's right.
And when I'm a teacher, so I speak to many students. I say, who wants human rights? All the hands go up. In fact, some of the students literally put up 2 hands to say, oh, I want human rights. And I agree with them. And then I ask a next question. Who here would like to come and take the podium and explain to all your fellow students, so what are those human rights you say you want? And you know what happens? All those hands go down and they all sit back. Don't ask me because I don't know. And that's when I really realized that on planet Earth, most people want human rights, but they don't know what it is. And so the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights basically gives us the 30 universal human rights. Now, 193 countries are members of the United Nations. So theoretically, in 193 countries, we have these human rights. Firstly, in all my countries, at all the universities I've traveled, they can't answer that question. And secondly, we need to make it in a way that's easy to understand, that's catchy, because we need to teach our kids. Our kids are on the internet. They watch videos. So while there's an incredibly important document written by the United Nations that sits there on the wall and is absolutely important, no 10-year-old is ever going to be able to read it. In fact, when I read it, I needed 3 big fat dictionaries to get through it. So I know that a 10-year-old ain't going to go there. So we literally took this very important document, made really easy little videos and fun videos in 30 seconds or 1 minute. So in 30 seconds or 1 minute, we can literally teach one of those human rights. So how valuable is that? It's fun, it's entertaining, they're just having a good time, and you know what? Well, I'm a teacher. They're learning. They're learning human rights in a way that they will easily remember. And so we make this really pedantic, really important document fun and easy to use too.
It's so important because we're so visual, and really the message is so much easier to understand, to get, comprehend. I've watched them. They're beautiful. I love the first one with the little children. I always, when I watch that, I go, you know, if we could just play that across the whole planet at the same time, I think every war would end, and divorces would stop. The lawyer would probably cry.
They'll go broke.
But you know what? Who knows? They may cry and actually have a realization. But you know, if you haven't watched them, one thing I want to do is, first of all, is that you can go on youthforhumanrights.org. I definitely encourage you to watch those public service announcements, and you're going to see that it's going to really be impactful. They're quite amazing. And what I wanted to ask you is, basically, obviously it's human rights, but when you go to these different countries, probably a lot of people are wondering, first of all, is how you have the stamina and the guts to do that. So I guess I'll go one thing at a time. So let me ask you, because probably a lot of people say, my God, how do you do that? How do you have the courage with kings, prime ministers? How do you?
Well, it's my passion, and I'm a teacher, so okay. I love meeting with youth. I love meeting with students. I love having the back and forth debates and hearing about, how smart they are, learning from them. Is the best educator is the one that's learning at the same time, sharing knowledge rather than preaching.
That's right.
There's a place for that, but I think in the classroom, not. And as far as it's very interesting that you asked me about the meeting with really important dignitaries. You know what I've found for the most part? Okay, there's also one or two exceptions. But for the most part, these dignitaries, these officials, ministers of education, ministers of youth, ministers of justice, for the most part, these are really good people who really intend well for their people. But they don't have the tools to be able to help them. Mm. And I'm a teacher. So they don't necessarily understand the value of the simplicity of education. How simple it is to teach and teach again and teach again and teach again, each time at the next level, and challenging those guys, okay, let's take this next level, let's do some research here. So for the most part, officials don't scare me, because for the most part, they are really well-intending people. They just don't have they don't know how. They want to help. They want to do good. They want to see their constituents do better. But for the most part, they just don't know how. And so I love it, because we become partners, and well, we're just doing it for the kids in the end.
Creates a lot of agreement.
Yes.
Mutual ground.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah.
There's so much division that happens in our world, and it doesn't really serve anybody's purpose, because we can't get anything done.
Exactly.
Nothing will flow, and it just stops. And what I was going to ask you is, the program has really beautiful colors and feeling to it. So or someone out there, how do we utilize this, and how does the program affect bullying, affect suicide, which is horrible because you never get back that family member, and other maladies like that we're suffering from?
Well, it goes back to me being a teacher. So I'm going to share with you just one little story. So for example, we work with volunteers around the world. So these are people from different backgrounds, computer engineers or lawyers or, whoever, who just help teach these human rights. So this one person, his name is Azar, he went to an elementary school, and he said, let me share some of these little videos and so on. The teacher said, great, come on in, let's do 1 hour. He shared a couple of the videos. They had a great back and forth. This is the best time with with kids and students, is like the back and forth, and let's talk about it, how it is, and whatever. And at the end of the lesson, he was, he left. He was very happy. The students were very happy. The teacher shook his hand. Everybody was happy. 2 days later, he got a phone call from the principal of the school telling him he needs to come and see her in her office. Well, I don't think there's anybody who likes to get that message of come and see me in my office. So he was like, what happened? What did I do wrong? I thought everything was fine, right? He got into the office, and that's when he heard the story. That day, one of the students, a 10-year-old boy, had come to school completely resolute that he was going to take his own life. He simply didn't feel that he could take it anymore. But because he learned that he had human rights, and the same human rights as those old bullies over there, he decided, heck, no way. We have the same human rights. I'm going to report you guys. And literally, that's what the principal actually wrote to us and said, I can truly state that the Youth for Human Rights program is life-saving. So that's the power of a student knowing I have human rights, the same human rights as those old bullies over there. And it gives them, again, the tools, the certainty to know that, and then the tool of saying, hey, no, I'm going to report this. And a life saved.
It's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful mission, and it must be such a fulfilling feeling, no?
It's fantastic. I love it.
I see that because, I look at you, and I'm sure a lot of the women and the men too, looking at you on the screen, they're going, wow, I want to look like that. I better start doing Youth for Human Rights. And
well, the kids keep you young,
Well, I tell you, I think it's a great antidote, and it's a great treatment.
Exactly.
I see, it's interesting because a lot of people who are leaders want people to follow. And I think the best example is always to see who you're following visually and physically and emotionally as a role model. And it's very interesting to have you on this show. I'm sure the viewers are very happy that we've gotten you on the show because you embody what you're talking about. And it's interesting, I don't know if it's something that's just come out probably because of all the years of doing this, but the way you communicate even, it just comes out with a melody of human rights. And it reminds me of some of the announcements I've heard. There's a certain feeling to them, and they flow, and it's a beautiful thing. This is the booklet that this program has. There you go. And it has the rights inside of them. And what I wanted to ask you is tell us a little bit about this week.
Yes.
Because you're going to be at the United Nations.
That's right. So basically, the concept is to give the students an opportunity to meet somebody they never met before, to learn from that person, to actually realize that, wow, so tell me about yourself, what's it like? What do you eat? How do you live? Or whatever, how bad are your schools?
Beautiful.
I know they talk about that. So from the 24 and 25, we will be at the United Nations headquarters. That's going to be at the United Nations headquarters in New York, and we'll be in conference room number 3, and we will have international youth delegates literally from around the world. I can go on and on and on. You were mentioning countries before, from literally across the globe, who are coming together, and they will be sharing what they're doing in their countries to promote human rights. So when they promote, what are their stories? Mm-hmm. I shared with you a story. There are many such stories. Mm-hmm. The miracles, the changed lives, the changed conditions that happen when mm-hmm. people just realize, wow, I have human rights. And so they will be sharing, these youth delegates will be sharing those stories, but they have the honor because we're on such a global, prestigious global platform,
Absolutely.
we will have United Nations officials address them and share their knowledge, lifelong, experience and so on. Professors, lawyers, who will be sharing their views. Again, I love the back and forth. We need to talk about it. And this is where you see it from an international youth body discussing, again, with international youth, but with age difference.
Right.
And just see the magic that happens out of it. The bridges that are built, the understanding. And if I may just say, the reason I do this program is because I know that we have a lot of situations pretty much around the world. Our program, our human rights program, is talking about human rights, not human wrongs. We are talking about human rights. In other words, we are teaching the world we want to see. We are like artists, creating and inspiring, so that the youth think of, yeah, this is how I want to see my world. Yeah, we need to see this human right, and we need to change that. And that's the magic. And at the International Summit, that's the magic that I see happens, because they interact, and then out of that blossoms their actions. Yeah, now. And you know what else happens? Is this youth, let's say from Rwanda, and this youth from, let's say, Argentina or wherever, they listen to each other, and then they say at the end of it, you just watch when we come back next year what I have done in my country. You think you're so smart, and that's so healthy. It's so wonderful.
It's a healthy competition.
It's the magic that just happens, and it's not because we ask them to do that, but that just blossoms out of it.
The nature of man to really help and to expand.
Exactly.
Wow.
And they come together as a human rights family, young and old alike. Those with gray hairs and so on. All of us get together, and we're basically just talking about the world we want to see, and making action plans, like how are we going to do it. And it's all, again, I'm a teacher, education, education, education.
Absolutely. It makes total sense. And something that I'm getting out of it, I want to make sure we all get out of it, is watching this show. This is the rainbow of life. It's interesting that God made this rainbow, and then after it rains, the rainbow comes out, and life abounds, and the flowers come out, and the trees. And at the United Nations this week, there'll be another rainbow. It'll be for humanity. And we've gotten, unfortunately, to the end of the show, but it's such a pleasure to have you. I don't want it to end, but I want to just ask you if you could, in maybe 15, 20 seconds, what final message, or let's do it this way, we're going to change it. What beginning message of creation do you want to give to our viewers as we move on into the future?
All right. Well, here's my message to you. Those are your human rights. Do you know what they are? Get to know them. They're yours.
There you go. And we will see you on the next episode. There you go. The engineer is putting them on for you. Check it out online. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of A Time for Truth show. Have a very good week. Check out those human rights. Let's see life change. Thank you so much, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Fialkoff.
It's a pleasure.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet